the masters of the universe.
Why are you so got this smirk on your face?
I'm in the character.
Are you going to say something funny?
I'm in character.
As you know, Tex, aka Mr. McQuilkin, we have these programs on Train Heroic, and thousands of people a day are logging information and going through it, doing the training, and we get all of that information. I don't know if you obsessively go through it like I do, but one of the questions I keep getting hit at on multiple programs is how to lunge properly. And when people post videos, a lot of the lunging, it looks pretty janky. And I feel like even though we have some tips, and if you're following one of our training programs, you can always go under any movement and go to tips and see a video, get a little write-up. But I feel like the lunge is very misunderstood.
And the great benefit of it, we almost need to put our people in the best position to understand this movement, what to think, what to feel, and if they're filming, what to look for themselves or share with the training feeds.
So when we do on Jack Street, obviously Jack Street to me is probably the number one world-class hypertrophy-based program and one of our most successful. But we use the lunge quite often as a leg developer. And if you tune into the interwebs and you look into Instagram, you see a lot of hot booty babes doing lunges, not necessarily understanding how to do a lunge, and more importantly, what the focus of the lunge is. Now, the lunge is pretty fascinating in that it hits a few different muscles, one of them being rectus femoris, your gluteus max, and then also your vagus lateralis. The interesting thing about the glute max, it is for hip extension. So when people think they're like, oh, I'm doing these for the glutes, the one issue that I see is when I watch people lunge, it just looks like them getting into position, doing a Bulgarian split squat with a vertical shin, and then standing up and doing what we call a wedding step, and then stepping into the next one, never focusing on keeping a positive shin angle and driving their knee over the toe and then driving out like they're trying to sprint through and pulling into that next one, putting their big toe in the ground, slamming it down, and then driving through and looking at it like a series of movements, just not individual squat, step, squat, step.
Mm-hmm. And the beauty is, while it is an amazing tool for muscular development, it's also a key component of developing athleticism, because we are moving through space with a walking lunge. And there's components of sprint technique, of step-ups within the lunge, and it's almost like we're training speed development alongside muscular development, and we're coaching in a window. So less complex movement that we can key in on some coachable actions to empower an athlete's performance.
So the faults that I see, the biggest one is the feet too narrow. Everybody seems to be lunging on a tightrope. So I always think shoulder width as you lunge, trying to maintain that shoulder width. Classic carryover would be like in split jerk, for example, from Olympic weightlifting. If you've done any split jerking, you realize that if you straight go this way, and you were able to maintain and keep that that width of foot, you're much more stable opposed from being here and then coming here. So a lot of times when I'm watching, the one biggest issue I see is people are not maintaining that base and they're lunging on a tightrope. The other one I really see is a vertical shin. Everybody kind of lunges out, vertical shin, and then they go straight down and then straight up. Mm-hmm. Not realizing that we're lunging with a vertical shin. They want the knee to go over the toe, and then we want to be able to pull that back leg and drive it through like you're trying to, Muay Thai knee somebody in the face and be explosive as you come through. And really just that lack of drive and understanding the transition that you're coming through. You're driving into the next one and the next one and the next one. It's just not a series of like single leg squats that are tied together with a wedding step.
And that pull through space and that high knee drive, that is key. And because the action, imagine your hips are moving through space. Along with that fault, when they hit their high knee, they're almost reaching forward with the foot only, not trusting their hips to move through space. So as they hips move through space, their foot can touch the ground and seamless into the knee, tracking over the foot, versus reach your foot forward, make ground contact, then drop the back knee. So we need that hip moving through space. The cue and direction would be to pull into your next step. So there's a lot going on, and I feel
like what about the back leg? So that's another thing that I've seen that as people go to lunge, they're so focused on the front leg. We want a slight bend in the back leg. We don't want it like an iron board, but we don't want it so overbent that it's doing nothing to really lengthen and like put that hip flexor into a like a lengthening position.
Yep.
So a lot of times when I watch, people are so apt to like bend that back knee to take all the stress off of the the hip flexor, adductor, and all those pieces.
The very common fault is them keeping that back leg straight, and it actually pulls and takes their posture out of a poor position
Because they have to arch.
And how we're coaching that up is we want both knees to bend together and aiming for a straight line from the back knee to the top of the head. A poor coaching technique is saying that knee needs to touch the ground. It does not have to for everyone, because if they're aiming to now have the bent knee touch the ground and they're breaking at the hip, they're losing their posture, they're falling forward, then it negatively affects our ability to pull and recruit that posterior chain to get into your next rep. So we're getting away from muscular development and athleticism development if we're forcing our athletes to touch their knee to the ground for a point.
So excessive knee bend in the back leg is a bad. I mean, it's just a bad effect. And when I see that, like, I think about you do need to bend it, but you still need to keep tension on that back leg so that it's loaded to be able to drive and pull through into a position. I think when people get excessive knee bend and they touch the ground, the first thing they do is they have to go straight up. They can't transition into it like at a 45 with their weight over their knee.
And then it's more of that anterior, the front side development versus that backside pull that we're aiming for with this particular variation of the lunge.
What about the upper body? I mean, we don't want to be straight up and down iron block like an iron rod. We want to have a decent chest lean, because I always thought about the lunge as a similar motion to the sprint. So I want to have, the knee is always over the toe as I'm driving through. My weight is on that front leg and my chest is over my knee, and I'm trying to push all of that weight and all that focus into that lead leg, and then be able to pull the other one and be able to step through, maintaining that good posture leaning forward.
And if we're watching Olympic trials, it's a beautiful representation of the spine position that we want. And another visual, pretend you have a barbell on your back.
Yeah.
Or positioning our dumbbells so it is to the side in a suitcase, and then I can really tell when we're coaching if we're seeing the over sway of that trunk forwards, over sway backwards, that we lose the position, the overarch. So we do load it up to really challenge and not ignore posture. That also, the weight helps muscular development.
So we think about, one of the guys on Hammer pulled his hamstring. And as he was talking through the hamstring pull, I can he's typing this out on the Hammer feed. Hey, I pulled my hamstring, and he went through, kind of gave us a little debrief of what happened. And instantly, all that came to mind was horizon change. And hit him with a few questions. He came back and said, I've always been coached to try to lengthen my stride, that I'm a long, tall guy, and I'm trying to lengthen my stride. What happens when you're sprinting, you're trying to purposely lengthen your stride. You end up reaching and pulling, and when that foot gets outside of that, outside of the body, and the leg gets straight, and you get into this kind of like where you're pulling the ground underneath and the foot's out in front of the knee, you're going to pull your hamstring. We've seen it a million times with horizon changes. What I talk to the individual about is, I'm like, you want to have a stride lengthen, but it has to be lengthened in other ways. The reason we do the dead bugs, we'll do the, obviously changing up and splitting the legs, we'll do contralateral, four-way, ipsilateral, is that ability to pull the two legs apart while maintaining that top leg to focus on that hamstring, but also lengthening that hip flexor and that adductor. Now, the lunge can be used in the same way and transition from that dead bug into that lunge, maintaining that good position. And as you're stepping through, you're lengthening and then driving through. But if you're able to focus on keeping the knee over the toe, we can effectively work to lengthen, effectively begin to lengthen your stride under load, or under some form of active range of motion.
Very much so, in a more coachable window than the sprint.
Sure.
And that fault will appear, as I mentioned earlier. They're not trusting their hips to move through space. They're pawing that toe, trying to touch it into the pool, and then moving as soon as they make foot contact. We're encouraging your hips to move through space and trust, and we'll go up into the gym and really.
No, I think this conversation necessitates us leaving here in the podcast room, going up to the gym, and we'll work through all these, and we'll see if we can really hammer out the fine points of the lunge and put a definite stake in the ground for all the programs, whether you're following Jack Street, Field Strong, Hammer, Grindstone, Lean Enable, am I missing one? Bedrock, whatever it is. If you're following a power athlete program and the lunge comes up, because it fits within our primal model of X, Y, and Z axis, so it's going to show up in all programs, that you know how to efficiently lunge, and more importantly, see the carryover for not only musculature, strength, but for athleticism and balance, and also flexibility under load.
That's it.
Let's do it.
I'm John, this is Tex, and we're here with another episode of the Masters of Movement. This time we're going to get into the lunge. Probably one of the most fucked up movements that we encounter in video, and when people start talking about lunging, it looks bad. So we're going to put a stake in the ground, and we're going to get some definitive movements and different landmarks and different positions for the lunge. So Mr. McQuilkin's going to start with his feet, hip width, and when he lunges out, look at that good lunge. If you notice, he didn't lunge on a tightrope. He lunged straight out in front of him so that this is his hip width. If you notice, he's got a positive shin angle. He's pressing the knee over the big toe, and he's really engaging quad. Now, where everybody fucks up the lunge is in the transition into the next lunge. So as he, not yet, pause. As he comes through, he's gonna pretend that he's driving this knee into somebody's face and explosively pulling through and driving into the next one. Good, pause. Excellent. Nope, get back down. Lunge through, great. And lunge through, one more time, good, pause, good. If you notice, he's driving in, big toes in the ground, positive shin angle. What he is not doing is the wedding step. Show me the wedding step. Those are called wedding steps. He's transitioning, he's driving through. Come on back. As he gets in this, look, knee over the toe, positive shin angle, right? Good hip, he's not below parallel, he's getting a ton of drive, and as he comes through, he's gonna keep that chest over the knee, and he's gonna act like he's kneeing somebody in the head. One more time, boom. Right, from this position, his knee is over his chest, or chest over the knee, sorry, but he's driving through. So that is our power athlete lunge, the definitive way to do the lunge. Stop bucking it up, but hit us up always with questions if you got them. Remember, Masters of Movement Power. Oh, you wanna do some weight?
Yeah.
You got it in you? It's a little muggy out today.
I know. So a few things to look for is this trunk dominance. When we add weight, we don't want that trunk to dive forward. Aim to stay as vertical as possible with this weight. So we're using this as an opportunity to challenge this pull and my posture. So watch this as a bad rep. I'm allowing the weight to control my upper body and my trunk. So maintain tall, pretty posture, lengthen that back leg, strengthen the front. Buying time.
Looks good. I got to go with Masters of Movement. So that is our body weight lunge, and we're also showing the variation with dumbbells. You can weight it any way. You can throw on a weighted vest. You can use kettlebells. You can hold somebody like in a Zercher, or you know what? Maybe you got somebody on your back. You never know. So check us out, Masters of Movement. Peace.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam.